Hello, thanks very much for watching. I recently made a video of this horrible thing. I was having trouble with sound at the time, so I couldn't really explain it and describe what I was doing to you. But this is basically a clock kit, which I'm interested in trying to make some clocks. So I bought one, and I stuck it in this bit of black perspex, quite thick. But unfortunately, I didn't know that once you put the second hand pointer on, it won't actually come off again. You can get the other two on and off, but not this one. So I'm remembering that, excuse me. I'm remembering that one for next time. But as you can see, it's very ramshackle. It's just stuck on with blue tack actually, because this material is just exactly the same thickness as the gold bit on the end of this here, see? And it just doesn't actually come out the other side. They are supplied with a nut, so that should be a bit easier than it is. But there we go. This was just to find a little bit out about clock kits, and I didn't find out much, but what I found out has taught me quite a lot. Okay, so let's put this one here for a minute. A number of minutes. They're good for minutes, these things. Now what I really want to do, as the title suggests, is to create a medieval type clock with just one hand that takes 24 hours to go all the way around. I've seen many pictures on the internet of clocks like that, but I've never really got as far as actually understanding what the precise design of the way the thing is put together, how it worked exactly. And it's intriguing when you go back with clocks, because the oldest clock that I've seen, they say it's the oldest working clock in the world. Now, I'm sure other people make claims like that for their clocks, and I don't want to be controversial, but it is pretty old. It's the oldest clock it's one of the oldest objects I've ever seen. Made in the 16th century, I think, or was it the 15th century? A very, very early clock. And it's from before pendulums were invented. It's got this great big thing that just goes click, click. Takes much longer than a second to actually click. With a spring driving it, and there's no face and there's no hands, but it's a clock in the sense that it rings a bell on the hour. I'm not sure if it does the quarters and the half hours, but it certainly rings a bell on the hour, because they have to, there's a way of kind of switching it off, a mechanical lever or something, when they're having a service in the church, so it doesn't start ringing in the middle of prayers. Anyway, before I get anywhere near that, I've got some research to do and stuff. I've got some bowls here, which have all come from my session, which you'll see on my channel. I'll put some links to it down below or up here. Who knows? I'm still learning to edit YouTube videos after all these years. I'll put some links to it somewhere where you can find them anyway. And these are all bowls that I turned wet last year, including this, which I shall come to. But this is totally, absolutely unfinished one, exactly as it came off the lathe at the time I made it. It's going to be cut down. The idea is it ovals slightly. If I hold it like that, you can probably see it's ovaled a fair bit. It's kind of wider that way than it is that way, because it's shrunk across the grain. So I'll put that on. It's still got the hole in the foot there, and that will have ovaled as well, but the chuck will grip that all right. And I've been using it as a naughty candle holder. How dare I do a thing like that? The idea is I'm going to turn this into the inside of this medieval clock, which is going to be quite big. But it is quite a big span across there, and I don't know if an ordinary clock kit is going to be able to cope with having one massive hand. And the ones I've seen and the ones I want to do come right from the top of the face to the bottom. It's a diameter of the circle of the clock face, if you will. That's going to be quite heavy, and it's going to be quite tricky to make, but I've got some ideas about that, but we'll get there. By way of a dry run, I thought I'd find out now in a very simple way about putting a clock kit into an existing wooden bowl, which is really the plan. So I took a smaller one. This is from the same batch. Hopefully I can find and link to exactly the video where I turned this from the piece of wood from the tree. And unfortunately, it's got some marks around the inside that I could not get off. This happens often with quilted sycamore, actually. It's a beautiful wood to work with. But you get these marks in it that they're not actually marks, they're part of the quilted pattern, but you cannot shift them, and it's got some grit and dirt in it as well. So I put it on the lathe. It actually had a foot on it then for the chuck to take, and I turned it on the lathe, put the parting tool in here, separated this ring off, which isn't doing anything yet, and got this. with the idea of making it into a clock face. So I've worked on the bowl part, the plate part a bit. Got some nasty marks on here, but the clock movement hides most of those. And I'm not going to try and sell this. This is an experiment, and I think it might look quite well hanging in my kitchen, you know, somewhere on the wall, telling people the time, probably running backwards with mirror writing problems or whatever, but that is my plan. So I sent off for some of these clock movements. They're very cheap. That's one. I did another one with a mirror on it for a friend of mine. She's just getting moved into a new place, so I made her a mirror clock with a 3mm time, and you could actually get the nut on it, so that was good. And now it's time to try this. These movements cost £2.50, 2.5 Great British pounds GBP on eBay, and another £1 for the postage, so £3.50, but very cheap. It's actually, I don't know if you can see too well there, but it does actually come through the hole in the middle, so I'm quite pleased with that. And I spent a while fitting it and moving it around. One tip that I could give anyone maybe is that I drilled this through from the back, thinking that the centre of the back, where it was actually mounted on the lathe, was going to be in the same place as the centre on the front, because it's only 3mm thick there. I measured it, but not so. It was way off centre. So I took out Madame La Dremel, got my Dremel 8220. I'm damn glad I got this actually. It's battery powered, but absolutely astonishing in terms of what it can do, and very well balanced actually. And I didn't have the sanding thing in it, obviously. I had this in it, which is the Dremel burr. It actually came with my last Dremel, and it's worn down and blunted a little bit, so it doesn't cut too much. And I just widened the hole out a bit there, so that I can put the clock movement in, put the nut on, and just kind of measure, make sure it's close to the edge in just the way I want it to be. So let's have a look at that. So this is what we get with the clock kit. The movement itself, obviously. And more expensive clock kits are actually very similar to this, but I'm going to get a fancy German slow-moving 24-hour movement for the final project. This being an experiment, it's just time to try things out. So we've got, where is it? Let's put it in here. We've got a cat. That's always good. We've got the nut in the washer there. Excuse me, searching for the camera. And also, with the clock kit, we get this. We get the hands, the pointers, if you will, and they come packed in this. They actually come packed in it with the nut and the washer, which, if you ask me, isn't all that helpful. It tends to result in bent hands. How bent is that one? I don't know, but it's not as badly bent as the last clock kit I did, which is the one that's in that plastic thing. And I apologise for the lack of sound and general lack of quality on that video. I mean, camera problems as we get. You also get this rubber washer. Also comes with the kit, but I'm not going to be using it on this one. I guess it's for mirror tiles. I didn't use it on the mirror clock because it's actually, I used a PVC mirror sheet for that. So let's zoom out a little bit. Excuse me. So we have our bowl and everything else. Now, the first thing to do, I think anyway, I might change my tune soon, is decide where's the bottom and where's the top. Now, I think it looks quite good that way because it's kind of smiling. I mean, that's kind of the other way, isn't it? But really, I want to have the light at the top and the dark at the bottom. That's kind of the classic way of doing things. And I'm no Leonardo da Vinci, but it's nice to follow this. If you follow the simple rules, you get something of quality that you can kind of build on, something that looks interesting. So I'm going this way. 12 o'clock's going to be at the top. 6 is going to be at the bottom. I'm not putting numbers on this one, though, because as you can probably tell by the fact that I'm making a 24-hour clock, I don't care about clocks that people can read, because I think we spend too much time fixated on time. It's easy for me to say that. I'm very lucky and privileged to live miles from anywhere in the countryside and to be more or less my own boss. So let's pop that through, which I managed to do off camera because I was thinking about something else. Silly me. Got that poking through the back. There's a plain side to the washer, which kind of just perhaps doesn't show on camera, but it doesn't look as good. You can obviously tell what the right one is. And that moves around a bit. So that's going to cover the rough edge of my rather rough hole. And I'm going to put the nut on, but not do it up really tight yet, because the next thing to do is measure the distance from the edge all around this, and then we can move it around so it's bang on in the middle. One way to do this is to take the second hand which is the longest hand, and pop it on very carefully. Don't push it home though, whatever you do, because you'll never get it off again. And just see. So I can measure now, and I'll do it privately in a second and not bore you with it. But I'm going to measure from there to there, then I'm going to bring it here, measure. It's actually touching there, look. Here it's touching there as well. Here it's miles off. So I'm going to wiggle it around a bit, get it in the right place, and I'll be right back. To say I am pleased with this would be an overstatement, because it's not quite centered, but it's a play-off between having it not quite touching the edges in places and rubbing on the other side to having it rubbing everywhere. So not much I can do with that one. But there we go. I do have a plan, actually. I can either trim a tiny bit off the end of this second hand, maybe sell it to the second hand shop and someone else can get some use out of it, or I might curve it slightly to match the inside of the bowl. I think that might actually be a better idea, but I don't know. I've really got to think about that. But there we go. I've got it more or less where I want it. So the thing to do now is center up the washer a bit and just kind of make it pretty, make it spot on in the middle. So I've thought about it some more now, and the only real way to do this, I think, is to put the hour hand on and excuse me, put the hour hand on and then the minute hand on. And they can be permanent now, because I'm absolutely sure of the position. Let's just bring it round to point upwards. And we don't have to mess around too much to get it to point to exactly midday. My clocks are never on exactly anything because there's never any numbers on them, but don't worry too much about time. Now that's bent up a little bit, so we'll just knock that down. It's not actually touching the curve at all there. This one I can see is going to touch on the inside of the curve, because although it's much shorter than the second hand, it's that bit lower down as well. So I'm going to pop it on anyway. I know that must seem very cavalier, but I'm going to get it on there and then bend it to position. It's the only way I can really see to do this, but I think if I'm going to, well, I am going to do it again actually, so next time I'll try. Before I put the clock movement in, I will simply put each hand in line with the centre of the bowl and bend it up the walls of the bowl. Now then, I wonder if I can get this on. I'm trying really hard. The cheap clock kits aren't drilled out brilliantly well. I don't know what the expensive clock kits are like by comparison. Do let me know in the comments below, because I'm fascinated to find out. And it's not going to be too long before I'm making this German clock thing that I'm looking forward to. Wonderful German movement. I cannot remember the name of it. Let's just bring that forward a bit so it's not binding on that. Now that's looking quite good too. I'm quite pleased with that actually. It is bent a bit, but it doesn't really show. If I go like that with it, you can see I've bent it to more or less match the profile of the inside of the bowl yet. So let's put that there. And now I can see that works. I'm going to pop that on. That's it, kind of permanent now. I don't think this movement can ever be used again. I'm just going to bend it up at the edge like that. And that looks, can you see that? It's kind of bent up, isn't it? But when it actually hangs on the wall, I don't think that's going to show. But what it is going to do is make it look rather unusual. And I do like the unusual factor with my clocks. Now this is a silent movement. It's the Seiko sweep. So I should put a battery in there and we'll have a look at it running. Here we are, the moment of truth. It says use alkaline batteries. And luckily that's what I've got. An energizer, let's pop it in, and have I got the polarity right? Yeah, not very clearly marked, but it is if you look for it, right at the bottom of the case there. Oh dear, that's not good. Now I've lost my alignment, but we'll see how much that matters or doesn't. It's just proper up there. With the Dremel. Come on, just stay there. Go on, stay there, baby. That's it. That looks good, but the Dremel is going to foul the pointer. There we go. I think, is it? No, it's going to miss it. Yes, it's missing it. Right, great. So let's bring it up close. Have a look there. The bowl's a bit rough and ready. The movement's a bit rough and ready, but I am pleased with it. We've got the darkness at the bottom. This line across here is the quilted nature of the sycamore. It looks as if the tree's been folded over and over on itself, but actually I'm told it's some kind of rock. The turner was telling me about that. Going to do something with the turner very soon, I hope. He has just invested in a VB lathe, and he always has a wealth of knowledge, and he's always doing something really interesting with a massive piece of wood, which is no bad thing. So there we are, guys. Thanks very much for watching. That has just about got this thing put together and working. I've got various other projects that I want to look into. Going to try this this rim, and I'm going to try and fit that black Perspex offcut clock into this without removing the mechanism, which ought to be fun. I've also got this rather nice bowl here, which was not rather nice yet, but the outside is beginning to look nice, and I think this might actually make it as a sycamore bowl. If it doesn't, you know, nothing worse, nothing wrong, I should say, with making a clock out of it. And this one, I'm going to have to get this one on the lathe and get it turned down so it'll stop being oval and it'll be cylindrical again. And I don't know, maybe reduce the thickness here, maybe cut off a banjo ring actually, that'd be good, make a banjo out of that bit. And from here back, could be the amazing medieval clock. I have to work on this. My plan is to build it into a box, so it kind of stands there. A box made of really badly kind of battered old bits of wood, nicely distressed, I think will do it. And actually make it look like an artefact from the Middle Ages. The great thing about these cheap movements, it's not a Seiko movement, I should say, but it's called the Seiko sweep, and it's, well, I wouldn't say it's exactly silent, but it's not like a pneumatic drill going off or anything, and I can only hear it at the dead of night if I'm standing right in front of the clock. It's virtually silent, very, very gentle buzz, and that means hopefully I can make something that looks really ancient, and you know, it won't have that click, 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 click thing that tells you it was made 2 years ago. Now then, guys, just before I go, I want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I mean, in all the time I've been doing it, which is about 9 years altogether at the moment. It's been brilliant to do these videos, to meet all of you and to chat about things. Do talk to me in the comments. I do like to have a talk to people. I really do. That's the whole point of this for me. Meeting other people, getting other people's ideas as well, and hopefully spreading a little bit of the love that I've got from the rest of YouTube. So, you know, great. And actually, since Christmas, more views have come and more subscriptions have come. I'm extremely grateful for it, guys. I'm going to try very hard not to let you down. We've got some better lighting here. There's a better camera coming in, I don't know, as soon as I can afford it, basically. So, hey, you know, brilliant. I really appreciate everyone watching. There'll be more coming very soon. Have a good one. Bye.